Good evening. It is Thursday, April the 20th, about 9:45 p.m. This is Shay Gibson with Weather Flow and Sail Flow, bringing you yet another update to start for Friday and then going into Saturday and Sunday for the Charleston Race Week 2017. This also goes out to the Chucktown Wind Report on Facebook that I run over there for the folks that also want to get in on the wind and water sports action on the beaches there. But we're going to go ahead and talk about what's to come. Looks like we have some pretty decent sea breezes tomorrow that could last into Saturday. Sunday's going to be a little bit tricky, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and look at the pattern over the area. So looking at our surface map, we talked last night's update, and for those of you that wake up in the morning and read this, we will have this high pressure feature dominating out over the Atlantic. It's more associated as a pretty decent, robust Bermuda high pressure by tomorrow especially. We'll keep this south-southwest flow going through our area and all the way up through the Carolinas on the coast and getting stronger as it hits up towards the outer banks, the outer capes of southeast North Carolina. So the other feature that we talk about is this cold front that is dropping down towards the region. And this is going to strengthen, and as it approaches the Appalachians, it will reach that outer edge of the Bermuda High, and it's going to curve around it. It will not be able to penetrate that dome of high pressure just yet, at least not until Sunday, when we see an area of low pressure traveling along a dip in the jet stream. There's going to be a negatively tilting trough down in this area that gains some momentum as it picks up moisture along the Gulf Stream. Some energy and moisture off of the, not Gulf Stream, the Gulf of Mexico, my apologies. But as this low travels up and across to the Appalachians, it stalls, and then it just overruns the coast. And that's going to happen pretty quickly by Sunday, I'd say Sunday afternoon into Monday morning overnight. That low is going to head towards the coastline. Things are going to get messy. We may see a little bit of prefrontal activity ahead of that for Sunday, which may squash the winds a little bit, or if there's enough sunshine, we could see the winds really get some boost ahead of that front with the low pressure. So anyways, that's getting a little far out. Let's take it one day at a time. So for tomorrow, we're going to continue to see the sea breezes. Today we saw some decent sea breezes in the harbor. In fact, we'll go ahead and take a look at the area right now. We see a little bit of this nocturnal jetting going on along the beaches. We have 14 knots gusting to 16 Isle of Palms. That graph has been steadily on the increase as the day went on and as the sun went down into dusk. So we definitely are seeing some nocturnal jetting, and that has something to do with this front being pretty distant, but also some of this Piedmont inland and lee side troughing right here. And this could actually be of assistance to the sea breeze tomorrow to gain a few extra knots for the forecast, which is going to be about 13 to 17 knots on the beaches and maybe 15 to 19 knots just inside the harbor mouth. So we're looking at a pretty healthy setup for tomorrow as far as the southerly winds, more in the south-southwesterly flow. Going back to sail flow just inside the harbor, we have 13 knots gusting to 15. That seemed to be about the norm today. I think we got up to about 14, 15 knots at one point right late in the afternoon and into the evening hours. And we should expect something similar to this tomorrow, but with a few knots higher. And if we look at the models, if we select all models on this, and we kind of go through time, we see that most of the models are in agreement with the direction of winds. As we get into the morning hours. So we have straight southwest winds. That's usually in association with nocturnal jetting. That's a general direction for those wind speeds. Now we see the models are split tomorrow afternoon. When we get up to about 1 o'clock to 3 and 5 p.m., these hours right here, these are the critical hours of the sea breezing. These are the peak heating hours. Now the inland troughing setup, we could see these winds very well verify along what this model is, which is the Wolf Wharf 2 kilometer, the weather flow 2 kilometer. This one tends to exaggerate a little bit, but this one might actually verify for tomorrow. It did verify for today, by the way, but the other models are being slightly more conservative. So we're seeing the medium resolution and coarse resolution ones staying in the low teens and mid-teens peaks at Fort Sumter, but this area tends to get a few more knots than the beaches. So if we look at the beaches at Isle of Palms, and we run all the models there, we'll see something sort of similar. It looks like the build takes it up a little bit higher on the beaches and it's being more conservative in the harbor. I tend to think it's the other way around. So this build may be more likely for the beaches, 13 to 17 knots. I'll take it up just a hair, somewhere in this zone, maybe right along the Wolf Wharf 2 kilometer. And as we get back into the harbor, we're looking at maybe 15 to 19 knots. We could even see some gusting into the low 20s if the sea breeze really strengthens, maybe even mid 20s. So be on guard for that sometime between 2 and 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. We may see some pretty strong gusts out there. They won't last too long, but they should dwindle down late in the afternoon, and then there is potential for that nocturnal jet to kick back in later as the evening surge, especially along the beaches. So beaches tend to get that nocturnal jetting a little bit more. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 6-day outlook loop from NOAA. And here's what we're talking about with that cold front approaching. It seems to gain some strength. See some severe weather break out in Texas and Oklahoma. And then as we go into time, we see that cold front approach, and it just stalls. It stalls right over the Appalachians and all the way up into the mid-Atlantic. And then you can see how it buckles. And that's because of that Bermuda high that's really just, creating this ridge in this area and keeping it basically in check. But here comes that area of low pressure that I was talking about. If we look at the GFS model, we can sort of see this coming together in time, coming across Texas, and then it just sort of stalls right here along the Appalachians, just lee side into the upstates of South Carolina, North Carolina. And this is Sunday evening. But then as it gains some traction and starts to head downslope from the mountains towards the coastline, it really picks up some momentum, and then it pushes offshore. From there, this gets into early next week. This is a little bit early to call it, but with the warm Gulf Stream waters out there and our self waters getting in towards the mid-70s, we may have to keep an eye on this system for a few days because it's not expected to really go anywhere. There's not a lot of moving factor once it gets offshore. So a little bit early to call. We won't really go there yet. Just something to keep an eye on. Here's an AM 3-kilometer model. We'll go ahead and run that back from hour 1, and the initialization is at, let's see, 7 UTC, which puts it about 4 o'clock, 5 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. We'll go ahead and run this for the 10 meter. In fact, I've already got this running in a GIF right here, and you can kind of see it goes through Sunday about 1 o'clock in the morning. But here's for tomorrow and Saturday. It looks like it keeps that south-southwesterly flow going pretty much through Saturday, but then you see Sunday, here comes that area of low pressure out here to the west. You can see that cold front crease drawing across towards the southeast region. But the general pattern to take away from this is that the Bermuda high with the southerly flow and the sea breezing continues to occur along the coastline. So we'll go ahead and give it a quick wrap up for tomorrow. We're calling 13 to 17 knots beaches with potential for a few extra. The harbor definitely a little bit higher. We're talking 15 to 19 knots, gusting into the low 20s, possible gusting mid-20s with a stronger sea breeze element. As we get into Saturday, we're looking at 13 to 17 knots again on the beaches, maybe a little bit less, 14 to 18 knots inside the harbor with a little bit of potential for a couple of extra knots. We're still watching that sea breeze strength and the profile at that point. And as we get into Sunday, we could see some prefrontal activity push forward ahead of the low in the cold front downslope, which means that we could see some storms and rains develop along the coastline, which would squash the sea breezing. It would basically contaminate the sea breeze circulation if there's too much clouding, and if that clouding gets over the coastline, it tends to weaken the winds. But we're still looking at a decent modest winds. We're talking 9 to 13 knots, maybe 10 to 14 inside the harbor, and maybe a little bit less on the beaches. So that's it for the wind report. One quick thing to talk about is Tropical Storm Arlene. Very interesting system that started out as a subtropical depression this morning, and then it developed some warm core characteristics. It got a little bit of warm air coming up from the south into it, and it drew some feeder band, and so it became a tropical depression once the core warmed up a little bit. And as time went on, by 5 o'clock p.m. today, it was upgraded to Tropical Storm Arlene. So the winds are 45 miles per hour, pressure is at 993 millibars. It's traveling to the west-northwest at 25 miles an hour, and in time, this system will basically get engulfed by an extratropical cyclone out in the Atlantic, and it will get pretty much ripped apart. But here's an animated version of this. Now as we get into nighttime, we see the infrared kick in from the higher resolution, and you can see the spin right here. It's not the largest storm, but it looked a little bit more impressive earlier, and it's heading in this general direction. It'll probably get engulfed by a larger low out in this area and then sort of ripped apart. It's not very long lived, but it is our first named storm of the season 2017. Very rare to see this kind of system develop in April. I think there's only been 2 others that have happened, so this would be the first one in 14 years. So very interesting. I think that's going to do it for this version of the Wind and Weather Report for the Charleston Race Week 2017. We wish everybody the best of luck out there, and I'll see you on next time. Thanks for watching.